Welcome to episode 33 of Planning Phase Syndicate. Tonight, we're going to be talking about, again, more spoilers. Spoiler alert. I don't have to say that because it's not part of the new Boba Fett show. Tonight, we're going to be having a conversation about some of the new release spoilers from the AMG Mando Pack and the Gauntlet Fighter. We're also going to have a conversation around force points, what force points are, how they interact with other, different characteristics on the board, and why they cost so much. Because they really do sometimes cost so much, especially if you're Count Dooku for some reason. I don't know why. And then we're going to be diving into a list of viewer wanted us to review. And if we get time, we're going to be doing a Construct the Death Star. With that being said, why don't we go ahead and bring in my co-hosts for tonight, Mr. JJ and Mr. Charles. How are you all doing tonight? We don't have a JJ, but we have a Charles.
I am doing well. It has been a wonderful weekend. I had a pretty good holiday season. Christmas, New Year's, and the like. It was pretty crazy, but good time. Apparently, the goal for our neighbors was to turn Point Siena into Vietnam at midnight, because that's really what it sounded like outside. It sounded like the world had come to an end. JJ, you at least can somewhat understand, because holy crap. Other than that, it was normal. I didn't watch the ball drop or anything. I haven't done that since I was like a teenager. So, but other than that, it's been pretty good. How about you guys?
Well, you seem to have grown a pair of eyes since we last had you on the show.
Wait.
I just like to say that. I'm sorry. I just wanted to say it.
Because I got new glasses?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm like, what? I couldn't wear them because of the Boba Fett helmet, but other than that.
Yeah, you could tell they look different. They don't look bad. It stands out as a Charles-ish thing.
I mean, they're completely different from what my previous glasses were.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know how many times we've been on stream together, but I don't know if I've ever noticed you wearing glasses before.
Every week,
so,
bro. Every week.
Every week.
It's just maybe because mine are dark and yours are, clear. I don't know. I'm gonna stop looking like a dumbass for now. And
Bob said I look like an extra from Falling Down.
All right, fair enough.
I'm Michael Keaton's stunt double. That was a Michael Keaton. That was who's in that? Now I gotta go look it up.
Yeah. So for me, I had a good New Year's. There's a golf resort near me where they actually have like a whole fireworks show for every major holiday. And then, of course, I'm like about 10 miles away from Disney. So I can hear all of their fireworks shows going off. And then the resort right next door also having their fireworks show going off. So, yeah, it definitely sounded like, the opening of a theater of war outside. But yeah, we stayed up, watched the ball drop, and had a good time. Yeah.
Awesome. You should share that on our Facebook page for the link for that if you have one. If it's public. If it's not public, don't share it. My New Year's was okay. It was better till about an hour ago. So my son had like a cold and had seemed to be close to getting over it. So we had him come over from my ex's house for New Year's Eve because we usually do like a board game marathon. And especially now that I have not, we don't go out drinking anymore, really that much. So,
stay in and drink.
We do stay in and drink. This year was a lot less drinking, because my buddy, is on a drinking hiatus right now. So we did drink, but he didn't drink. I didn't drink very much. I probably had 2 7-7s and a glass of scotch. And of course, no New Year's champagne because the wife doesn't like champagne. But anyway, so we played a bunch of board games. My son had a small cough. His stepfather tested negative for COVID. And then tonight we got a call from his stepfather saying he just tested positive for COVID. So we did a rapid test for my son at the store who tested positive. So that's super exciting for me. We got to figure out how to work and clean the house. Guess I don't get to go to my local tomorrow. So, but
Sucks,
with
man.
I had direct exposure, so we won't be leaving the house for at least 5 days. I feel fine personally, you know. And I will say, what is nice is we've all been vaccinated. So hopefully, if we do get it, it won't hit hard. But if you know me, I'm a germaphobe. So as soon as my son got diagnosed or took that test, I went around and started sanitizing the whole house. So
Yeah, I do the same thing. Yeah, it's crazy. You go into like full like disinfect mode. Like if you could even set up like a tent where they spray like all those the sanitizers as people enter your house. I wish I could set that up so they can go through like a decontamination thing. I would love that. Yeah.
I'm clean. I'm clean.
that would be me. Anyway, so other than that, we played a bunch of board games. We did not play any X-Wing because nobody in my house seems to like X-Wing anymore. But we did play our Mansions of Madness, and they have like a train edition for it.
Ooh.
Is that like Mansions of Madness Ticket to Ride?
No, no, it's like guided D&D, but it was on a train. So the map was just straight long. It took my whole table up. I should take a pictures. I didn't even think about that. And so we had that, and then we also played this Nemesis game. And I don't know if anybody's ever played that. But it
Star
is
Trek Nemesis. Yeah.
No. This is just a Nemesis. It's like an alien knockoff game because they can't call it aliens.
Okay.
But it's literally aliens. All the aliens look like the aliens from the movie.
They look like the xenomorphs?
Yes, they're all xenomorphs. And I'm not a huge Alien fan. Like, I like those movies. Don't get me wrong. I think they're really cool, but like, I'm not obsessed with them. But that game is insanely hard. Like, it is just like it's basically one of your comrades dies, and you have to go around throughout the spaceship to figure out if the spaceship's working, if you're going to Earth. Then you have a private thing, and every time you move a room, you roll for noise, and you can spawn these aliens that are insanely hard to kill. And like, so the success rate on that game is like, I don't know, I think 30%. We did not win.
Damn.
I have a game like that. It's not aliens themed. It is it's called Yggdrasil. It's all obviously based on the name. It's Norse themed. It was made by Z-Man Games, which was then absorbed by Asmodee. And it's now out of print, but the entire game is you play the Aesir gods trying to protect Valhalla from Ragnarok. And I am convinced that it is designed for you to lose. I can count on one hand the number of times that we have actually won that game. And it's ridiculous. It's so damn hard.
Yeah, so that sounds very similar.
Yeah.
It sounds like what, JJ?
Like Dark Souls. Yeah, it sounds exactly.
Yeah, like Dark Souls, but on a board game.
Yeah.
So we played those. We played a couple other games too that were a little bit lighter, but those were the two big ones that we played. Because Mansions of Madness is a 2-hour event plus setup and teardown time half the time. So
especially if you're the only person who's actually setting up or tearing down. Yeah, I know. That's me.
Yeah. Well, what sucks is now I have to go figure out if I'm going to sanitize all those or do I just quarantine them because my son was touching them, for like 2 weeks, we'll probably just quarantine them because I don't really feel like, you know how long it would take me to sanitize every one of those damn pieces? Like
about as long as it would take to sanitize a set of Gloomhaven. God, I can't even imagine.
Hell no.
Like I have anxiety just thinking about having to sanitize a Gloomhaven set.
It's a good thing we didn't play Gloomhaven this weekend. That was on the agenda. So
I have the Jaws of the Lion version of Gloomhaven, which is think of like a D&D starter box where the characters, like the cards, are dumbed down a little bit, so you have to read what they do, and it's a little more dialed back than full Gloomhaven. But it's a really good teaching tool before diving fully into Gloomhaven.
That's interesting. Yeah, I've owned it for 2 or 3 years, and we took everything out of the box and sorted it and put it in its own package, but we've never played it.
It's one of those things where like it's a lot of fun, but it's more fun when you have the capability to get a group
Yeah.
so that you're actually able to have a consecutive weekly like play style. Because it's not a one shot. It's a a legacy board game where every decision you make changes what happens in the future events of the game and how the board is laid out. So it's actually I love it. There is, for those who want to play it and don't want to drop the $150 that it is $180, they have a TTS mod so that you can play via TTS. Lots of fun.
All right. Well, if we all go back into lockdown, maybe we'll do a Planning Phase Syndicate Gloomhaven.
I'm down. Like a Gloomhaven event, I'm in 100%.
Yeah, I mean, we could probably, if we have to all go back into lockdown like before, then maybe that's what we'll do. So I am a little worried about LVO and about Adepticon seeing the numbers rise. So, but
I've been reading online that they've been tickets popping up for LVO because people are canceling.
Yeah, I am concerned, but
I am too, because I paid for a trip to Las Vegas.
Yep, same here.
Just stay safe, mask up, glove up, make sure you keep your distance.
I'm gonna look like Jack Nicholson from As Good as It Gets, brother. Don't worry. I'm not even gonna step on cracks.
Regardless. So, so Greg, are you just gonna go like? And if there's no X-wing, what are you gonna do? Just like hang out by yourself?
Nope. Greg and I are gonna meet up and play in the parking lot.
Yeah, he's been prepping for blackjack. Yeah, he's ready for blackjack. Yeah.
Greg, I'll teach you how to play roulette.
All right. So why don't we get into the spoilers? That's probably the best place to start for the night.
I'm excited for this.
Oh yeah, me too.
So let's start there, because the first one is Pre-Vizsla. Who wants to take it?
I will. I'll take it's a scum. No, you won't. Don't you touch my scum upgrade, JJ. You have everything else. You leave my scum alone. Damn it.
All right, fine. Go ahead and read John Favreau's card.
Yeah, right. So Pre-Vizsla is a single dot, so it's a unique upgrade. Can be used in Scum or Separatist. It does fill the crew slot. It gives whatever ship it's added to a white coordinate. So not a red, not a purple. It gives that ship a white coordinate. While you perform a coordinate action, you can choose a friendly crew remote. I believe crew remotes are only the trooper remotes, right?
Yes, yeah. That's the only one so far.
So you can choose a friendly crew remote instead of another friendly ship. Instead of performing an action, that remote relocates forward using a hard 1 turn, left or right, or a 2 straight. So you basically, instead of, to break that down a little bit, normally when you coordinate, you can choose a friendly ship at range 0-2. And that allows you to let another ship do an action instead of yours. It's really great for support, making sure that you have double-mounted ships. In this case, this allows you to target a remote, which was previously not something that you could do, as long as the remote was well, to be fair, we didn't have a crew remote until now. And it allows you to reposition that crew remote. So if I'm understanding correctly, depending on order of operations, during the system phase, the remote would move in accordance with the remote moving rules. And then your ships would move, and as an action, you could then reposition the remote a second time. Am I understanding that correct?
Yep. That's my theory behind it. Yes.
Got it.
Yeah, because remotes will natively have some sort of a move function. I'm hoping these are not as aggressive as the other remotes we have. In Separatists, the remotes move 2s and 3s. Discords are 3s, no questions asked. So you have to, discords are, once you learn how to do it, you're fine. But discords are natively not something that you normally can get to hit somebody on there. But
discords don't move. Do they? They just do the 3 and then they sit on the board.
They
Unless
do,
they're-
yes.
Unless they're attached to a
Yep.
ship, they just sit there like a bomb or like a debris field. The only
Yes.
ones that actually move right now are the dark one,
Probe droids. Yep.
probe droid, which while yes, they are aggressive in their movement, they don't do anything but give you a target lock anyway, right?
Yes. So
Okay.
the difference would be is this. Yeah, this is like kind of combining the two. But that's what I'm saying is like to shoot a 3. To shoot the 3s, it's a pain in the ass to land them to hit somebody. So like I want to have the remotes be very small moving, like kind of like 1s and 2 maneuvers, and that's it. And I don't know. That's what I'm hoping that they do. This here is great if you get a double maneuver out of them, because then if you do need to move it fast, you can. Because I'm assuming if we bump into a remote, there's going to be consequences, just like the other ones.
I think there's
though,
like a strain or something like that. If you go over, they've done one of the trooper upgrades, and I think you get a strain if you overlap it.
yeah. And the best part is going to be is if you're going to have that, right? But the other thing that you could have too is, yeah, like Twitchy said, if there's bombs dropped or something like that, you moving away for them, being able to get away from that bomb will be very important. And I don't know what kind of arcs these remotes are going to have. I'm assuming they're going to look similar to the tracking torpedoes that we saw in Separatists, but I'm not sure. So, I think
you could also, instead of moving them away, if you had like say Obi-Wan dialed in a maneuver or something like that, and he was going to go over a proximity mine, you could sacrifice your troopers in order to save Obi-Wan by moving them over the proxy mine or some other mine rather than a bomb, to get use that extra maneuver to go twice through it and stop your ship from hitting it.
Yeah, and then the bumping rule is going to be very interesting too, because we don't know what happens when you bump them. If you just get just a strain, and they can still shoot at range 0, we don't know. Like I agree with Twitchy. I really hope in the next week or two we get a spoiler with like all of the commando stuff. Like just give me the booklet now with all the rules for it.
Yeah, and the other part of this too is that if you're worried about your troopers getting shot, you can always have them like arc dodge essentially another ship by repositioning using those things. And when your troopers die, you still have coordinate action, a white coordinate action, which if you have it on an initiative 6, that's gold right there, because that helps you get that reposition on your lower aces easy. So
yeah. Now,
just out of curiosity, is there an initiative 6 ship that's got a crew slot?
Jango Fett.
Django.
Would you give up? Dengar. Would you give up Zam on Django for this to give Django a coordinate action?
Yeah, I would.
I don't know that I would. I get
it depends on the rest of the list, honestly.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
I don't know that I'd want to give off. I'd give up because both Django and Dengar, respectively, are offensive powerhouses. I don't know that I would want them taking any actions that would leave them without tokens.
Do you notice the one interesting thing here on this thing? The really interesting thing, other than the white coordinate, which like is good in itself. It says you can choose a friendly crew remote instead of another friendly ship instead of performing an action. Oh, I see. Never mind. I thought that it was going to say instead of that remote performing an action, because if remotes can perform actions, holy shit! Like
yeah, a focus on a
commando. Yeah, I know it's only 2 dice, but like that seems pretty good. You roll against it, it gets 2 green die. Oh, it lives.
System phase actions on a remote. Imagine, jeez, that'll be crazy. Yeah,
yeah, and then give me calculate token passing to my probe droids and to my discords. That's what I want.
Nobody wants that.
I do. I want it. I do. This guy here. You know who doesn't want it? Matt. Matt. But every time. So here. Okay, I'll tell a little story. It's not embarrassing, but Matt does this when I play droids with discords and I shoot one off. Whether I hit his ship or not, he literally will spend every shot he can getting rid of the discord. Even if it's only 1 crit, on a shielded ship, it doesn't matter to him. It's like the principle. He could not stand. He hated the those discords.
Thank you, Nabi, for the 3 months in a row, man. And you're right. We need more we need A-wings that can have pre-Vizsla in it. Yes, Scum A-wings. Oh
No,
no.
no,
yeah,
no,
I'm in
Pass.
for Scum
no.
A-wings.
Hard pass.
All right, let's move on to the next one. DJ?
AMG banned A-wings.
So this one here, this is a separatist crew. This is Tal Merrick. It reads: set up before placing forces. Place one enemy ship. Choose one enemy ship and assign false friend condition to it. Action: if the false friend condition is not assigned to an enemy ship, assign it to an enemy ship in your forward arc at range 0 to 2. And then that goes together with the condition card false friend. It reads, put that here. Scroll down, Chris.
I did.
Yeah, there you go. During the system phase, if there's an enemy ship with Tal Merrick upgrade at range 0 to 2 or an enemy remote at range 0 to 2, flip your dial face up. Action: gain 1 complete token and 1 stress token to discard this condition. I don't see
AMG
this.
immediately bans this card.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think for standard, this is not going to be legal. Absolutely not. But for extended, this will absolutely
They
be
banned
legal.
They banned every other card that allows you to see a dial.
Yeah. I think this is just something that would just live on in the Wild West, as they call it, for extended. That's it. That's the only way that this is going to work. The interesting part about this, though, is that this is probably the better version of Informant because you can continuously add that condition card to other ships as an action, and you
I
can
know.
continuously do
Horrible.
that, which is great. So this easily would be like what 5-6 points easily, I would say. And if they want to remove it, they take a strain and a deplete. That's pretty strong.
Yeah. Yep. It's crazy. That's that card probably should never have been made unless it's like 26 points. And there you go. You can have a 26 point card if that's what you want. That card probably should never have been made. All right. So let's just move on because here we have a new mall for Scum only. It's going to give an additional illicit slot, which is pretty good. It's going to give a purple coordinate, 1 force, but it's double crew. So this fits on two ships in Scum.
YV666 and the
YT.
Gauntlet, apparently.
Nope. The Millennium Falcon as well.
Oh, sorry, 3 ships then.
And we don't know if the Gauntlet has 2 or not, though.
Yes, we do.
I would assume, yeah.
The only way it can launch troopers. I think that you can give up a bomb slot. I think the trooper upgrade allows you to give up a bomb slot to create a crew slot for it. But to be fair, without the Gauntlet, 2 ships. The busted crap Falcon that Scum got stuck with. God, that thing's a piece of garbage. And the YV666. Those are the only 2 ships that could run it.
Want to hear another crazy story quickly?
Sure.
So when Matt and I first started playing X-Wing, he bought some lots and he got a Scum lot. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to stick with Empire. You can dive into the Scum. That's when I thought I would be an Empire only player and I wouldn't own more than one faction. And whoever sent us this put the wrong dial in the YT 1300 for like months. We played with the stupid auto drone dial as the YT 1300 dial. Dead serious, like all over the place. So we didn't know, like we didn't even think about looking it up. Matt, we just hated that. We fucking hated the YT 1300 because it would like do like 6 maneuvers and that was it. And then it died all the time.
I hope that this is cheaper than the current mall crew. You know what I mean? Just because of the fact that you still only get the 1 purple, which is what the original mall gave you anyway. You don't get the ability to recover it when you get shot at. So it's just, it's just the 1 every turn. And if you decide to use the coordinate that it gives, you're going to be absorbing that force point unless you have it on a force pilot, which, to be fair, there isn't one in Scum on the YV or on the Falcon. So to coordinate, it would cost your force point. I would rather use 1 crew slot and put pre-Vizsla Just saying.
Exactly.
with a white
Yeah,
coordinate.
pre-Vizsla. Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if this is cheaper than the other mall, then maybe, depending on your list, if you just need it for the coordinate, then maybe. And that way, if you don't use the coordinate, you've got the force as a secondary additional modification. But if this is at or more expensive than the current mall upgrade, I don't see this seeing play at all.
Yeah.
There's
And
no
that's the
reason
thing
why I
too.
would pay more to give up 2 crew slots for the same effect.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the other thing too, right? Is that this is a double crew slot, right? So the ships that can currently take it right now, besides the Gauntlet, would be the Millennium Falcon and the YEB 666, right? So for those ships, specifically the ships that you'll probably run will be like Han, Orlando, which are wanting to use the crew slots for other crews that make their ships better.
Kira.
And yep, Kira, exactly. And for a double crew slot for just a one force, it has to be priced really competitive. Otherwise, you're just gonna have far better options for crew. Honestly, yeah.
Yeah, because mall crew is it's a crew in Scum already, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah. Tell me why
That's Boba's best friend.
I would ever in God's green earth run this in Scum over Maul, who's 10 points. So like if this is 10 points, like I don't know. I think it's dumb to have how about this? I think this is unless you want that extra illicit slot, this has to be under 10. And now, which is what we're actually going to talk about here in a few minutes, is force points, because this is an interesting discussion right here, right? Maul number 1 is worth 10 points. It only takes up 1 crew slot. And if you get shot, right, and take a damage, you get your force back. Like, you can regen. So if it's on a ship that gets shot multiple times, Boba, which immediately, like, if they open the crew slot back up, you're just going to put it on Boba again. Like, 100%.
Yeah, Maul and Boba are best friends. But just looking at, upgrades, like as far as like illicit upgrades go, are there any that are illicit upgrades I can't speak. I'm sorry. Uniques. So like if we look at Dead Man Switch, you can have multiple. Well, I don't know why.
Cloaking device is unique. And
cloaking device is unique. So
to clarify, you can't have 2 copies of the same illicit on the same ship. You can have it on the same list, but on the same ship.
Right, but not cloaking device, because cloaking device is unique.
Yeah, exactly.
You could have double contraband on the YV. That'd be nice. You can have double false transponder codes.
You wouldn't be able to put the 2 of the same upgrades on the same ship. That's what I'm trying to say. It's like, so you can't do 2 contrabands on the same thing. It's in the list building things. I was looking at it with the title for the that we're gonna see in a second for the Razor Crest. Yeah. So
okay. Yep. So, but I mean, you could still run false transponder codes with overtuned modulators, or contraband with rigged cargo. Oh God. Do a 5K and then drop a rigged cargo.
Right.
Oh, so many Babu Freak.
So yeah, the Babu Frick is the other unique, because I think cloaking device and Babu Frick are the only 2 unique ones in Scum.
Yep.
So and Twitchy makes an interesting point. Gauntlets might not have a native coordinate, or I believe it's red, right? So this would allow you to have a purple coordinate on your Gauntlet ship. So I can't imagine this is going to be under 10 points. If it is, I think it's a steal to some extent for those 2 ships. But in fairness, you are giving up 2 crew slots. So I don't know. And again, how about this? When we get into the force discussion, this is why I actually wanted to have that discussion, is because of this stupid ass card. Because like Nichols, like Greg said, Leia 16 effing points, Palps 14 points, Dooku 14 points, Yoda's 12 points. I mean, come on, like, so This is taking up 2 crew
Ayala
spots.
Sakura gives you a coordinate, and she's 14 points. Because my first V-Wing list iteration, if you remember, was running R2 in the Y-Wing with
Yeah,
Ayala
that's right.
Sakura as the crew, so that I could get that coordinate. And that would dropping her opened up so many possibilities to fit just because of how many points it is.
Yeah. And so, anyway, that's what, when we get to our force discussion in a few minutes, we'll come back to this. I'm not sold on this specific, that card, but I think we could talk points and how they rate it and all that. The next one is Rook Cast.
So after
Go ahead.
So after you perform a red action, you may gain a strain token. While you perform an attack, if you are strained, you may change one of your blank or focus results to a hit, and she also gives a red target lock. I wanted to look at one thing real quick before we get too deep into this, and that is Overtuned Modulators. So that seems like they would be stapled together. Because with Overtuned, if you are not stressed, you may spend a charge to gain 3 calculate tokens during the end phase if your charge is not active. For each green token you remove, gain 1 strain. So setting up your next turn, you've got 3 strain tokens. That gives you, if you want to keep those strain, Rook then has the ability to mod 3 shots.
That could be an edge case. For me, when I was looking at this card, I was thinking Bosk with Contraband, and Contraband with oh my god, the scum only elite talent that helps you recover a charge. Mainly because no.
I know. Yeah.
So
Cutthroat.
the reason Cutthroat, yeah. So you can take a target lock, make it red, get a strain for it, or so take a target lock, get a strain, and then you can mod your shots here. Like, it's a passive mod that you can do, and then you can Contraband Cybernetics the next turn, do the red again if you need to, and you still have that passive mod, right? If you have to do like a full stop or whatever, that means that you're not getting out of any other like actions for like the next 3 turns, but it is a possible combo. This card can't be costed too much just because there's just way too much negative effects for like a short-term effect.
Greg is saying as well, because I don't know why I glanced over it, but performing a red action. So not only are you strained, but you're also stressed.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think this card sucks, but that's just me. I would never run this, and it's going to be somebody that's a better player than me, I guess. I can figure out how to run this.
I mean, if you could potentially, so I could see this on really on the YV666. Because if you're strained, you lose your die. You only get 1 die anyway. So if I can guarantee a hit result from a blank or a focus, and then Bosk can change that, if I can get a crit out of it using like auto blasters, for instance. If I fire auto blasters and get hit crit or blank crit, and then I can use this to change that blank or focus to a hit, and then use Bosk's ability to change that crit down to 2 hits. I've just converted by giving a ship that has 1 green die anyway, no green die. I've just converted a 1 damage attack into 3 for a stress.
Yeah, and go ahead.
I don't know, man. I feel like we're stretching here. That's what I feel. I feel like we're talking. What faction is this in? Oh, it's in Scum. How many tools does Scum have? Oh, 1 million. All right.
Yeah.
Like maybe if this card is 1 point or 2 points, it'd see play. I'm sorry. Like this is a crew spot. It's taken up to give you a red target lock, and you get to perform a red action. Like, you know what this fits on? Fucking Republic or Resistance Y-Wing. Do a red boost.
Yeah.
Get a strain to go along with it. Change a hit. Yeah, this is like a shitty version of what Darth Vader gets to do. You know?
But you
Honestly,
know what this is? This is a challenge. I'm going to build a functional list with this on it when it releases.
easy phone alarm. That's it.
And then I'm going to beat Greg with it.
Watch
Not
it be
that that's-
like 12 points.
Not that that's much of a challenge anyway.
Oh,
All right.
Shots fired.
I'm going to move on because I hate that card. And this next card is actually extremely exciting for me. I'm happy because this is giving another Force character in Separatist. It's Sag. It's Savage Opress. No, this is Maul's brother, right? After a friendly ship in your front arc at range 1 to 2 gains a stress or a strain token, you may spend a force. If you do, that ship gains 1 focus token. So, how about this? I'm just excited it's another force point, and hopefully it isn't 14 points, because guess what Sam gets to have stapled to her?
Yep. Exactly.
Give me an 8-point force user.
For this is actually one of the cards that I would actually pair Rook with.
I was just going to say I'd pair this with Rook
because that stress and strain, you can easily get that focus token. Honestly, like I said, I would put Rook on Forlam, and then just make sure I have Savage Carrier somewhere that can really take advantage of this.
Would you? So here's a question: would you put this maybe in with Asajj, and then you have 2 force points?
Yeah.
So the Rook carrier could get 2 focuses off of it, because you gain the stress from doing the red. You spend a force to give a focus. Is it give a focus? No, it's gain a focus token. So it's not the action. So then she does the red maneuver or the red action, gets a free focus. Then she does she gains the strain to do to trigger, and gets a second focus. So now you have a double focus for defense, as well as being strained for your offensive shot as well.
I mean, heck, I would actually put this as a support piece on a generic Lancer, and just keep it in the back. Like just have a K turn whenever it needs to, and it could just take shots off the back. Like I think that'll be a solid support piece.
Twitchy, you're an evil person, and I love the way your brain works. I love you, sir.
Yeah.
With all my scummy heart.
What's exciting about this is it's the front arc only, right? Mm-hmm. So, like this works really well on Django, but I'm happy it doesn't work on Bosk. Because can you imagine Bosk range 1 to 2?
The full front arc.
Full front arc.
Terrible.
There you go.
Full front half. Ooh.
Oh, yep. Merry Christmas. Have a free focus. Thank God somebody thought of that. because I don't care if this is a 15-point upgrade. If it worked on Bosk in that way, where it was a full, 180 arc, that would be worth it
all day, every day. Just staple it to Bosk and run.
Yep.
So you can actually probably run this now as a full scum party bus for Force users, kind of like Rat, where you can put Maul and Savage in the same place with 2 Force. Yeah. Great.
Yes. Oh, yep. Yes. Twitchy. Yes. Thank you. I'm sorry. That was the other thing I didn't think to say. You can now give droids and tubs focuses.
So, okay.
And it's 1 crew slot. So Django goes slow. If I want to give a droid a focus, Merry Christmas.
Independent
HMP.
I was going to say you can't share them, right?
You can't share the focus, no.
Okay, thank God.
Imagine.
Thank God. I'd hate it.
Independent calculate tri-fighter now. Just think about that. 2 calculates and a focus.
Disgusting. Ooh, disgusting. Ooh, stealth device. Can you put... Oh, you can't have stealth device if you have independent calculate.
Independent,
Never mind.
Yeah.
All right, how about a double focus? A double focus droid. I don't know. You know how many red maneuvers do those tri-fighters have, though? That's a good
Not that
question.
much, but they have link actions too, so they could do like barrel roll into evade. So you could do evade focus on them,
Oof.
and at that point you don't need independent calculations.
Nope.
You can just run stealth device on them. I mean, could be good.
All right. Who wants to help me test this?
I'll do it.
I'm in.
Easily, this is a 12-point upgrade, though. Honestly, this is on the power level of like Fifth Brother to me. Honestly,
Yeah, I think so far this out of this wave, this is the clear winner in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
But and maybe it's because I'm a separatist player, so this is a huge benefit for me. But
he'd go great on Maul. They'd
Ugh,
give you
yeah.
4/4 on Maul on the Scimitar.
That's so disgusting. Stop. All right.
Chris,
All right.
We're going to shut your camera off for a moment.
We're gonna theory craft here in a minute. Anyway, we're gonna move on. We're moving on. The next one is Prime Minister Elmec. JJ?
So two setup card here. So the first one, the setup, equip this side face up. After a friendly ship at range 0 to 2 reveals a white maneuver. If it has no green tokens, it may gain 1 stress token to gain 1 calculate token. During the end phase, if you have 2 or more stress tokens, flip this card. On the flip side, it says after a friendly ship at range 0 to 2 fully executes a red maneuver, that ship may perform a calculate or focus action on its action bar even while stressed. And this is a Republic or Scum crew only.
Any ship that's got R4. Any ship that has an astromech slot. Staple this in the crew, throw an astromech, throw an R4 on there, and just watch everything die.
Now, to clarify for the newer players who don't understand the interaction with R4 astromech, while it decreases the difficulty of the maneuvers, it actually does not change the actual color of it. The closest ruling that we had is the interaction with Covenel and R4 astromech, where Covenel can reveal a hard 1, which is red on the resistance transport, and then it would still roll an extra attack die because it still revealed a red printed maneuver. R4 astromech just reduces the difficulty while it actually performs it. So any ship that has access to the R4 astromech will love this particular upgrade, specifically because this affects every friendly ship at range 0-2 that has this the face up part of this card, and just go bananas. Yeah, easily. I would put this with Fangs, and yeah,
I'd put this with generic Jedis.
Oh yeah, generic. Oh yeah, the Jedi Knight.
It's a Republic upgrade. You could throw this with a Jedi Knight, or even with some Adas. If the Adas don't have it. Do Adas have an astromech slot?
Yes, they do.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, you can throw it on a lat or an arc.
Yeah.
And run that with some low cost Jedis or something like that.
Your favorite Y-wing pilot, R2D2.
yes, I would put this in the crew slot and then run a bunch of Y-wings with astromechs in them.
Yep.
Can we go back to Oppress?
Sure.
Just for a second.
Did you just see what Twitchy put in the chat?
No. I saw that before, but okay. So think of it this way. Let's go back to 4 force points. So just so you know, if he comes in at 11 points, 2 infiltrators, Maul and Dooku with Palp and Oppress, and again, this is Oppress being 11 points, which is my theory is he's going to be 11 or 12 points. He has to be. I'm at 152 points. I still have 48 points to spare on 2 Sith infiltrators. And my Dooku can take Zam and Palp. Can he? I think he could take both, can he? Yep. Because Palp's only 1 crew.
Mm-hmm.
So I can run. That's horrible. I can run. I mean, they'll probably get burned down, but I can run Zam and Palp on Dooku, Maul with Savage Oppress, and both of them with Hate.
I was gonna say, do you got room for Hate on those?
Oh yeah, Hate's 4 points, dude.
Oh, put heightened perception and cloak on Dooku.
Yeah,
Can
the
you fit
Scimitar
that?
title. Yeah, the Scimitar title and heightened perception instead of hate on Dooku. It's pretty strong.
All right. So with that, if Sagio Press comes in at 11 points, I still have 27 points to work with. And that's with all of that shit on there.
Pretty good.
Oh, I didn't put cloak on. Sorry. That's without cloak. How much
Without
is
the
cloak?
scimitar-
3?
What's
It's
the
the
scimitar
title. Yeah, it's 3. It's 3 points. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, I did put it on there. Sorry. 27. I still have if Savage comes in at 11, I still have 27 fucking points to work with.
That's an extra ship.
That's
You could-
that's
you
a
could fit
droid.
A droid.
Yep. I can put a droid with independent calculate and Discord missiles.
That's pretty good.
Or 2 proton torps. You're right. 2 proton torps. Ugh. All right. We gotta move on because I think double infiltrators just became a little bit more powerful because of that.
Yeah.
And guess who just bought a second infiltrator 3 weeks ago? This guy.
Oh, 24 points is 2 proton torps.
Mm-hmm. That's what I just said.
2 force modded proton torps. God.
Yep.
I quit.
Yeah.
Remove the crew slots from the Scimitar. It's done.
Yep.
It's more powerful than Boba. It's got to be done. Ban them now.
They only got 1 green die. Come on, they can't shoot out their ass. But you know what I can do?
I murdered Maul last night.
You know what I can do?
Yeah.
A 5K.
Yeah, that came in handy last night. Yep, definitely.
A Scimitar can do a fucking 5K. Come on, like how ridiculous is that? A large base ship that can do a 5K. That's the dumbest thing I've ever. Okay. Anyway,
the VCX, yeah, but yeah. Anyway,
exactly. So we have 2 ships, and I guess maybe because it's a Palp ship, because the infiltrator is technically Palp ship, not Maul ship. Like, yeah, when am I gonna get? How about this? Here you go. When am I gonna get a Palp pilot?
Never. That should never happen. That should not be a thing.
It should be. It should be
OP.
No,
hold on. Time out. When has Palp ever flown a ship?
He
has his own.
Season 6 of Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Really? I've never watched that show. That show's awful anyway.
It's not.
It is one of the best episodes because that's where you go. Spoiler alert, by the way. This is where he goes to confront.
I think we're beyond that at this point.
Yeah, he goes to confront Maul on Mandalore after he's taken over Mandalore, and it is one of the best animated fight scenes ever. Watching Palp take on Savage Opress and Maul at the same time. It is fantastic. Highly recommend.
What you said? Season what? 6?
Yeah, season 6 of Clone Wars.
I'll have to check that out.
Hey, Separatist or hey Twitchy, I agree. Give me Asajj. I want Asajj in Separatist.
I'm down with that. Asajj Ventress.
Probably.
Oh yes.
Probably in that Finn fighter that she used to like take on Anakin.
Oh my god. Yeah. Yes. Give me Asajj. All right, let's move on to reality and stop. We're daydreaming now.
Yep. Can I do this one?
Do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Razor Crest title. Is that where we're at?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So this goes on 1 ship and 1 ship only. The Razor Crest.
No. Yeah. It is the Razor Crest. It doesn't go on the Razor Crest. It goes on the ST-70 assault ship.
ST-70. Blah, blah, blah. It's the Razor Crest. It's never been anything other than anyway. So place 1 non-limited non-limited illicit upgrade face down under this card. During the system phase, you may reveal that upgrade and equip it as if it were equipped at setup without paying its points cost. This also gives an evade to barrel roll action. Evade to red barrel roll. The couple of questions that I had on this are A, does the ship have to have an open illicit slot? B, if it doesn't, this creates basically a second illicit slot. If you don't pay the points cost, but if you reveal that and add it to the ship and your opponent destroys the ship, does that illicit score points for them at the end of the game? Considering it's not entered as part of your build during building the squad, but because it is added points during the game, is it possible for your opponent to score more than 200 points by killing it?
So let me give you my take, and then JJ can run down his.
Mm-hmm.
First is no, you'll never go over 200 points. And based on what we've seen from AMG and their scenario play, that'll be somewhat inconsequential. So the answer, in my opinion, the answer is no. It is not going to cost any extra. It will not gain them any extra points. B, I don't think this is going to take up an Alyssa slot based on how it's worded. And C, I genuinely don't think I don't think the costs associated with it will be included in the base price, right? Because I know it says without paying the cost, but do you have to technically think about that cost when you're building your list? So my answer to all those is no. And I think this is one of the most amazing upgrades for that ship. And like it's really still only 3 or 4 points worth of free shit, but that's pretty good in my opinion.
So for me, and just a side note, I hope that an Alyssa comes out for a carbonite freezing where you can just freeze one of your opponent's crew members and just throw them there. That'd be great. Anyway,
they're ejected from the ship and you can swing by and pick them up.
Rig cargo chute at the back. It's all like it's all the carbon freeze prisoners. So for this one, I believe that yes, this does give you essentially a second illicit upgrade slot based on the wording of the first part. Second, I do believe this will actually eventually put you over 200 points. Now, the reason why I say that is because while we've been talking about ban cards that are going to come out for standard, I think this is going to be one of the cards that will be limited based on the scenario. I think that there'll be scenarios that'll be written specifically for play or matches that will not depend on the points of the ship itself, rather more like objective points. And I think that this would be a valid card for that particular scenario. On the extended side, I do see that this could potentially go over. At most, you'll be going 3 points over, because I think the most. I don't think there's a. Actually, no, 4 points over. Yeah, because rig cargo chute. That's the most expensive non-unique illicit slot that you could go on there.
No, that's not true.
That's what I think.
Inertial dampeners is not unique, and it's
Are you sure?
5 points. It doesn't.
Huh.
Now, to be fair,
right.
I'm looking, and yeah. So I think inertial dampeners is that.
Yeah, you're right. It is. It's not unique. Well, I always thought it was unique. But yeah, I mean, 5 points over. I think that.
I don't know why you'd ever want to run more than one of them on a ship, but
yeah. I mean, with this, just a side note for like list building, I would definitely hide a dead man switch on here, and then also on the IG-11 crew, and then when I'm about to blow up, I just reveal it. And there's 2 crits coming at you as soon as I blow up. Like boom.
You get the crit that if you do a non-straight maneuver, it deals 1 damage to you, and then in the system phase reveal it, do a 1 bank into somebody else's ship and deal 2 guaranteed damage.
That's great. That's great. Yeah.
That's the scummiest shit ever. I love it.
Absolutely.
And Chris hates scum even more. You know what, Chris? You know what I would do that on? Just for the hell of it? I'd make you an I-0 with Torkel Bucks.
And we have a token for TTS
just to drive the point home. I would put this on Torkel and just run, dude.
Is your token, JJ, my face or my face with the middle finger? Like that's what the fucking Torkel icon should be. There you go. You want to make some for TTS? Make my fucking face with a middle finger. Here, hold on. You could screen cap this right now.
Someone clip this.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna grab that. That's great.
Oh, Chris, side note that has nothing to do with this. If you look at my screen, I got my second there it is. Got my second glass cabinet. So both helmets, I just got to get a stand for the Deathwatch helmet.
Oh, yeah. I didn't notice that earlier. Yep.
The back cabinet has become 100% Boba Fett only. So there's all Boba Fett stuff in there.
So
sorry, real quick. Just real quick. There's nothing to do with anything, but I just want to give a quick shout out to whoever my Secret Santa was in the Secret Santa gift exchange. I don't know where they found it. I am overjoyed because I already had the regular Mandalorian Funko Pop. Somehow, whoever it is, I don't know, because it just said Secret Santa on the box, found a Amazon exclusive Mandalorian that actually has a chrome helmet.
Wow.
So instead of it being like the gray kind of washed out plastic, it's actually full chrome. So I don't know who you are, but thank you so much if you watch the stream. I really appreciate the gift. It was awesome. And back to our regularly scheduled programming.
So we're gonna move on from this. I actually think this card is really good. Based on how they've made title cards, the best part is gonna be this is probably gonna be a free card. Really, this could be a free card for
I say
Scum.
this is an 8-point card, honestly.
Yeah, you think so? I think it should be costing, but they've gone opposite directions from what I would have thought for some of these types of cards, and but just the evade barrel roll is really good, I think.
What is, just out of curiosity, do you know off the top of your head, JJ, what the current most expensive title is?
The punishing one.
That's at
I
no,
believe
Moldy
that-
Crow's more expensive than
Oh
punishing.
no, yeah, you're
One,
right.
isn't it?
Sorry, Moldy Crow. Yeah,
Moldy Crow's like 12 points, right?
Yeah,
16.
And that gives 16 points.
Is it?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
It's stupid expensive. Slave
know why?
One, Slave One,
'Cause
and
that's
Marauder
upfront.
are
Because of
6.
fucking Torkoal Mugs.
Yeah, because
Nah.
it gives you. It also gives you an extra arc.
Yeah, and the reason why I think this is 8 points is, one, just to cover the cost of the illicit that you're not paying for. Two, to the cost of the evade into red barrel is a really good linked action to add onto the Razor Crest. So just to offset that that free illicit that you're getting, I think that this has to be costed appropriately. So I would say conservatively 8 points, aggressively 6 points. So.
I'm in for that. I would even be okay with variable cost. Even though it says that you don't pay the cost of the upgrade, I would say that the cost of the title is directly affected by the cost of the upgrade.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'd be okay with that. Like if you play a 1 point illicit, this is 4 points. If you play a 2, it's 5, 3, it's 6, all the way up to 8. So we would range anywhere from 4 to 8, depending on the cost of the illicit that you pair with it.
Yeah.
Honestly, do you think they're gonna do that though?
No.
Okay.
No. Realistically, no. That would mess up so much. I think that it'll just be again, I think 8 is a pretty comfortable cost point for this. I mean, people pay 16 for Moldy Crow without even thinking twice. And like you said, the Razor Crest had what, 2 green? Yeah, the Razor the
2.
ST-70 assault ship has 2 greens, so an
Yeah.
evade to barrel roll is super strong on a medium base ship with 2 agility die. I'm comfortable with this being 8 points, and I'd pay it all day.
Yeah.
All right. So the last one we have is Hot Shot Tail Blaster. Essentially, this is an illicit that adds a rear arc. You can shoot range 0 to 1, so if somebody runs into you, you can still shoot. You spend 1 energy, which is non-reoccurring, to do a shot. You can mod them, it looks like, because it doesn't say anything about not modding. To me, this has to be very cheap, or this is a worthless card too. If this was perform a bonus attack at range 0 out your rear arc, that would be different. But this is not. I will say probably on the Razor Crest, this is an okay card to add to it, right? Because it just gives you the ability to not have to turn around and shoot. But I don't know, like, or Bosk, yeah, I can see Bosk running this just so that, God, now I have a 180 plus another 90-degree arc.
Yeah.
So I would just call this out, and JJ, you can jump on my bandwagon if you want. But you do not have to. For 3 points in 1.0, which I don't know what the calculation conversion is, but let's say
Sick.
safely 6 points in 2.0. In 1.0, the Hotshot Blaster itself, the illicit upgrade Hotshot Blaster was a 3 dice attack at range 1 to 2 that you could use once. And you could even shoot a ship outside of your firing arc, so it allowed your side or rear shot. You got it once. Where this was king, absolute money. I spent 3 points on it every time. Scum Z95X or Z95s. The headhunters, give them an illicit that gives me an out of arc shot all day, every day. I can only use it once, but it's a 3 dice shot. The ship only has a 2 dice primary. So I get a 3 dice side or rear arc shot. It may only be one, but if I've got 4 or 5 of those Z95s in play, that's 4 or 5 out of arc shots that I can take. This is a rear arc, but still, I'll take a front rear on a Z95, and this gives me 2 shots instead of 1 all day, every day.
Yeah, I think this.
I put this on a Fang.
So it is limited to just medium or large base. For this.
Yeah, never mind.
So,
well, that cancels everything. Just forget everything I said.
So, I mean, honestly, it's really going to depend on the cost of the actual card itself. Honestly, I don't see this being more than 3 points. Otherwise, it's just not going to see play. This is only going to be good on ships that don't have that rear arc, that have the ability to be an effective blocker, because range 0 shots will be a thing, later on. So, definitely the SC-70 assault ship or the Razor Crest will be a good candidate for that, in case it gets in front of somebody and it wants to just block them from, hitting somebody else. And this allows him to at least take that range 0 shot onto that ship. He's still going to, it's an unmodded 2 die attack, but, average, you're going to get 1 hit, right? Beyond that, I mean, you're not getting a range bonus because it has that missile icon, which prevents a range bonus at range 1. So, I mean, other than giving you just a rear arc to shoot twice, I don't think I'll see much play. So,
I have a question. What does Nora say?
Her ability triggers at range 0 to 1.
Okay. What'd you say?
I said she says good night.
Okay.
Sorry, JJ. It's an inside joke. Chris's daughter's name is Nora.
With an
she
H,
always
though.
comes down. Oh, it's still
Yes.
Nora. She comes down.
It is
like Nora Jones.
Yeah, but that's not what she was
I didn't
named
know that's
after.
what she was named after. Interesting.
I was
The
going to
more
say.
you know.
Yeah.
I did not name my kid after Nora Jones, for Christ's sake. All right, so Nora Adria. Okay, goddamn it, you're really, it's like tangent night tonight for me, which normally doesn't happen. But Nora Adriel means light and dark, right? And that's why
awesome.
we named her that, which is very fitting, actually, weirdly enough, for her personality. She's a really happy person with a really devious back
She sounds
personality.
like her father.
I don't know. You think I'm a happy person? Maybe I am. Maybe I come off as happy.
So here's the thing. I think that there are times where you definitely aren't. I've talked to you during some of those times, but I've also seen you playing X-Wing and hanging out with your friends. And when you're kind of at peace and doing something that you enjoy, you're definitely a happy person. I think that you have the capability when your mindset allows for it. This has nothing to do with X-Wing. This is just me being Chris's therapist, but
Therapy 101.
welcome to planning phase therapy.
All right. So we're going to move on from the upgrades. I really want to get into force point discussion, right? That's right. I really, really want to do that. I don't know if we need to bring the cards up. Originally, I was going to have you bring a bunch of cards up, but it seems like it's just going to slow everything down if we do that, right? And so because I think I want to have a higher level discussion about force points, because a lot of people will equate force points to pre-calculates every turn, right? So if you take a focus and you have a force point, you have a focus and a calculate that you can use. But where I think the force points changes is when you start talking about card context, right? And the card context of what you can do with that force point makes all of the difference. But what I really wanted to do is I kind of wanted to review current lists, because I think there's at least one faction that has almost no force points at all, weirdly enough. And I want to talk about how they impact a faction, right? And I'll start off by talking about Republic, right? Republic obviously has the most force point
all the
users.
force point users.
Yeah.
All of them.
They have upgrades and ship pilots that are force users, right? So the gimmick of Republic obviously is force points. That's what it is. I mean, for Christ's sake, we have Yoda with 3 force points and a crew Yoda with 2 force points. And neither one sees play. Neither one. Not popular play, at least, right? And so that's where
I tried Yoda in the Ada at our our planning phase tournament, and while it was fun, would I run it over Obi? Probably not.
No, even at cheaper points, you're not going to run it over Obi because of the fact that the allowing you to regenerate your force on the other pilots is just not worth the action point. It's just not for Yoda. Now, if Yoda could take hate and that, and then you shot back at, well, you wouldn't want that because you don't want.
Yoda could take hate. Oh.
You don't want Yoda to die.
Yeah, you don't want him to take damage, but
yeah.
God, if Yoda could use dark side force points.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's kind of the premise behind this conversation is what goes into the consideration of a force point to some extent, right? Over something else. And when we talk about, you know, like, and this is where I think Yoda fails, because I think Yoda says spend your force, it works on to regenerate other force users, right? Where it should just grant free coordinate type actions instead, because it's really hard, even with the Delta, you know, the Delta 7Bs, it's still really hard with them to give them all their force points because Yoda can't regenerate all his force points at the beginning of the round. Now, he can carry patience. Is it patience? Yes. It's patience. He can carry patience to take the strain, to do that. But Yoda still has to survive. So Yoda becomes this high-level target in your Jedi 7B list because you just kill him, and he can't keep giving force points back. And you just gave up, I don't know, let's see here. Yoda comes in at, what, 45? Yep, 45 points.
I agree, Twitchy. As much as it hurts me to say it, Yoda with 3 7Bs is great, but I'd take a 4th 7B over Yoda any day.
Yeah, he just doesn't do anything. That's the problem. He just...
JJ, are you advertising for cool stuff?
Am I? Yes.
Sorry, what? I caught the logo on your shirt.
Do we get anyway?
Yeah, did we get sponsorship?
Hold on. Yeah, like these are the things I need to know about JJ. Happen. All this shit's in my name, so I need to know those things. Anyway, let's go back to the force points discussion, because I think it's really a valid discussion, right? Because force is such a hard thing to do. And again, I don't want to get into each of the different abilities that force users have, right? Like Count Dooku's 14 points, but you could change any effing die result. That's pretty totes. That's probably worth 14 or more points. Luke Skywalker Gunner is 26 points and essentially just banned from anything because who takes a 26 point force upgrade? And it's because of what he can do, because he could just rotate. So he could do whatever he wants, whatever action he wants, spend a force and rotate. Boom, I'm done. There you go. Oh, hey, you outmaneuvered me. I'm just going to rotate. No problem. Which is pretty powerful, right? I mean, that is. But I think the bigger conversation is if we just boil it down to just base force points, Scum comes in with literally 2 people that can run, that are force users, and 1 upgrade.
Resistance only has 1, right?
Yeah, Resistance is the only other place that has less, but they have 2 crew force upgrades. And this is when we talk about Maul being that double spot, right? But having the force coordinate, your negative is you have to have 2 crew slots to run him. The positive is you get to run a force coordinate. Leia is 16 points, but is 1 spot in Resistance. That's pretty good. Like on Covenel, that's really good, right? You You could run it on Covenel. You could run it on Rey, give Rey an extra force point. That's a pretty good crew card. So when we talk about the points level and we talk about all these new points, getting a free calculate every turn, what is that worth to you? And maybe this is the time where you guys get to tell me, hey Chris, now do you understand why I hate separatists? Because you get to give your calculate to somebody else. And that's free.
So it boils down a lot to the chassis, right? The best example of the power level between a force user and a non-force user on the same chassis is going to be the TIE Advance V1, right? So you take a look at the Baron of the Empire, which is 31 points, and then the Inquisitor. They both have the same exact stats. They're both initiative 3. They both have 2 attack, 3 evades, 2 hull, 2 shields. The only difference between the two is just the 1 force point between the two. There is an 8-point difference between the two. I think that the having access to that force point is big, because at base it always allows for a mod for that particular ship, right? Because if you do a red maneuver with the chassis, the Baron of the Empire is going to have nothing, and then the Inquisitor still has that passive force mod which they can use to manage dice, either on offense or defense, and I think that's what makes it that much more important. Other than that, and that's just on the base level. Now, across the board, when you take a look at other ships that already have the force, and they have access to different abilities that allow them to spend that force to make the chassis even more maneuverable or even better. Taking a look at the Delta 7s that can spend that force points to either do a barrel roll or a boost action after they fully execute a maneuver. That's huge for that particular chassis, because that enables you to either get into range for a better shot, or if you're trying to get away, be more defensive. It allows you to either barrel roll or boost out of an arc to either come back and return and re-engage at a later time if you need to, if you're trying to survive, or boost in and be more aggressive to try to take out a critical target that you need to take out. So it's definitely a huge game mechanic for X-Wing that they introduced for 2.0, and I think that at base the having access to the Force just makes that ship or that chassis that much better. What do you think, Charles?
God, that was a lot. Yeah, I mean, so I guess to piggyback on what Chris was saying, right? Because Chris was talking about Scum not having a lot of Force users. As a Scum player, do I wish we had more Force users? Absolutely. I will gladly take as many Force users as you want to cram into our faction. But let's be real, right? When we look at what the Scum faction was built to comprise, we look at what the Scum faction was built to do. They're bounty hunters. Until like late Clone Wars into Rebels and Resistance, there weren't any. Like we didn't. You're going to have to help me on this because I'm not a Resistance or Rebels guy. But when did Asajj enter the bounty hunter sect?
It was mid Clone Wars, basically, is when she entered it. Yeah.
Yep. So we didn't. When we look at where the game has been, we got Jedi right at the beginning of 2.0. Right, that's when we entered the Republic factions, and Clone Wars is the tail end of the Republic, right? Because Order 66 is basically what I consider to be the end of the Republic and the start of them becoming the Galactic Empire.
Yeah.
So when we look at that, that's a lot of pilots. Like especially when you look at like the original trilogy, which is where a lot of the game originates. Scum doesn't have Force users. Scum has never had Force users. That's why Scum has illicit slots, because we have to compete somehow. And when we look at Resistance, realistically, other than Kylo Ren and Rey, there really aren't a whole lot of Force users when we look at like the secondary trilogy as well, when we look at the newer films. So as much as I would love to have more, by all means, bring it. Scum is already a strong enough faction without Force users. And we've seen, as represented in, say, like Boba, when you give someone who was built to be strong without a Force user a Force point, it makes that single act of war a non-functioning play experience. No one likes playing against a Boba Fett with a Force mod. It just doesn't work. They were built to be strong without the Force. Adding the Force almost always makes certain pilots and certain ships that were already top tier ridiculous. So I don't think that Scum needs it. Resistance has enough token what is it? What's the word I'm looking for? Economy. Token economy. They have enough economy of sharing actions and sharing tokens between ships. When you look at like Hera paired with Jin, paired with whoever.
Oh, you mean Rebels? Yeah.
Or yeah, that's Rebels. Sorry, but even Resistance. When you look at Death Ray and how her and Finn work together, and the amount of, just forgive the term because it's a family show, but the amount of bullshittery they can do to drop stress. When you put the Resistance crew slot that allows you
Corcella.
When you put Corcella on that and you just don't care about stress which we'll circle back to this on another episode, Chris, but I want to talk about how deadly objects or deadly obstacles could potentially change the value of Corcella. Because before you just brought the clouds that gave you stress, and you didn't care. You just ran roughshod through them because you knew she was going to kill the stress at the end of the turn. But now that there is more negatives to doing it, does that change the value? Different episode, we'll come back to it. But when we look at the actuality, when we look at not a game, but the fact that this game is based on a universe that exists in its totality, the fact that First Order only has Kylo and Resistance really only has Rey or Leia, because Luke is dead, spoiler alert, that it fits. It just fits. They don't need them. Republic needs them because without the Force users, Republic is terrible.
All right. So Republic aside, and this is where the question I have comes into play, right? And this is what drove me to ask this question. These two questions. I got two questions because I'm not a 1.0 player, and the two of you are. So, A, was there equivalent in 1.0 to Force use? And I don't want you to answer that yet. I want to get my second question out before I forget it, right? And my second question is when we talk about design space and this and that, and I'm not saying I know better than anybody else, blah, blah, blah. What I am saying, though, is when we look at how Force points interact, in what they truly are, could there not be different styles of upgrades that you could give or different ways to word text that would allow us to not have Force points or Force users? And because what it almost feels like to me is they wanted to bring a piece of Star Wars into the game to give us the feel, right? Like when you fly Luke's a 2 Force user on a 2 agility ship. You shoot at him, he can use it and then regen it. That's how that works. Really amazing. Really good. Maul gets 3 force, right? I can create a double shot with Maul. A little bit, which makes sense, right? Because Maul never dies, it seems, in the damn show. Somehow he comes back. We don't know how. You don't have any dick or legs, but you come back.
Wow, that went away. I didn't think it was going to go.
I'm sorry.
Sure.
I'm sorry.
You're good.
Side tangent. And
we all wondered. It's okay. We all wondered. You're the only one that knows for sure, but we all wondered.
He's just a eunuch now. It's fine.
He's not a eunuch. He doesn't have the lower part of his body. Anyway, how did he survive underneath that whole thing without the bottom part of him? I'm sorry.
To be fair, at no point have they ever specified the genitalia for his race. You don't know. He could have a dick in his ear.
Fair enough. You know what? That's fair. But logically speaking, he can't shit.
And JJ instantly regrets joining this podcast.
I do have for that, but I don't want to tangent even more than we have already tonight. So yeah, go ahead.
We need a whole mall. That's what I want. Disney, give me a mall episode at least that explains all of this crap because it doesn't make sense.
Put it on Disney Plus.
Ugh. All right. Let's
I want
go.
a mall action figure that I can take apart and put legs and
wait.
stuff on it.
They might have those.
That's possible.
Hold on. I'm gonna Google that in a minute after the show. God, we really sidetracked here. So the two questions was, the first question I had was 1.0, what is the equivalent to Force? And 2.0, now that we're in this, right? Could they have used other formats or different variations of this? Because like Charles says, you start adding Force into a faction that doesn't need it with users that we know were in that faction that use Force. And to me, they've almost kind of like added too much strength and consistency to the game with the Force users that it feels like you either overprice them or you have to restrict and give them negative consequences for it. And Asajj is a great example.
I was going to say Asajj is the only one that I would argue with, because while yes, she's a Force point user in Scum, when we look at the overall usage of the Shadowcaster, I can't say meta, but I can say that I personally take Ketsu over Asajj almost always. Maybe not now because I can't tractor you on a rock, so that might have pushed Asajj a little bit. But having Ketsu be able to tractor somebody when they shot at them with the title, and then being able to force them to keep that tractor so they can't, you know what I mean? Like, I valued Ketsu more than I valued Asajj, even with the Force points, because I didn't see the Force value there. And I feel the same way about Kanan on the Hawk. I would take Torkel Mux, or I would take Palob over Kanan because of their usefulness, and they are not reliant on a regenerative resource. They don't ever burn out. Palob never loses his ability. Torkel never loses his ability. If I drain Force, this is me. I'm speaking for me. I'm not speaking for meta. I'm not speaking for anything. I value consistency and the ability to use it without. Torkel happens every turn. He doesn't need a Force point. Torkel happens. Period. End of story.
So I do have a rebuttal for that, but I'll get to that in a second. So to answer your original question, Chris, about 1.0, a lot of the pilots that now here in 2.0 that have the Force had similar abilities in 1.0 just as their ability. So when they converted those pilots into 2.0, essentially what they did is that in order for them to use the original abilities that they had on 1.0, they now had to spend a Force in order for them to use that ability. And namely, Asajj of Interest, her ability used to give out stress over to a ship that she had in the turret arc. And that's how she did it. It just happened, right? You were there and you got it, period. In 2.0, now you have to use action, which made her less abusive than she was in 1.0, because now you do have to spend that resource, which is the Force token, in order for you to use that particular ability. Now, going back to...
Can I rebut something real quick?
Yeah.
I 100% agree with what you're saying for the most part. But when we compare, and I'm going to use one pilot, when you compare Luke Skywalker 1.0 to Luke Skywalker 2.0. Luke Skywalker 2.0 is 100 times more powerful with the Force.
Yes.
Because in 1.0, it was just when defending, you could automatically change a focus to an evade. Having a passive mod that I could use on offense or defense.
Yeah, way better.
Completely changes. With Luke, you took your focus for your offense, but you made sure that you were set for that. Right, because he only had focus or target lock. Those were your only actions. You couldn't evade. You couldn't do anything.
What was his cost? You got
he was 28 out of. So you had 100 points to build your list. He had 28 points. He could use an astromech, a torpedo, and a title, and that was it.
Yep. So they gave him a 4-point increase and 2 force and a whole different ability.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he is 100 times more powerful in 2.0. If you take that force away from him and you give him this ability in 2.0, no one touches him.
Yeah, agreed.
Just my 2 cents. So yes, I agree. They've upgraded by adding force, but sometimes the force feels oppressive when you're playing against it.
Yeah. So just going back to the comparison, right, between the two pilots on the same chassis, right? So specifically Asajj and Ketsu, and then I'll go over the HWK pilots. So while yes, I do agree with you, Ketsu is a better choice overall between her and Asajj. I think that if you were to do a direct compare, if Asajj was Initiative 5, I think that she would be a more popular choice than Ketsu, because Ketsu shooting at the Initiative 5, you have a greater chance of initiative killing somebody, especially if you're able to get the tractor ability off to reduce small base ships. You have a greater chance of either inflicting damage or just initiative killing a lower initiative ship than Asajj does. Asajj is more of a control piece, I think, and in that particular part, especially if you compare it with other ships that rely on a ship having a stress token or red token to trigger another type of ability, she's far more reliable that way, or at least to strip off a token off of that. Going back to the Hawks, while Torkoal and Palop certainly do always trigger every turn, assuming that they do have them in an arc, Kanan does as well. You just have to make a choice between either keeping your force for a mod or spending the force to reduce 1 red die, which is the potential for 1 damage to go through on a ship. It's a lot more. It's a lot more narrow too, because it only works in that turret arc on Kanan, whereas Palop and Torkoal is in their firing arcs, which is essentially 180 for them if you have Moldy Crow.
I was going to say that's what makes Moldy Crow so expensive is
exactly
the addition of an arc.
Yeah, exactly. So in that case, yes, they're a little more powerful than Kanan for that because they have a wider range. But if you're able to add on a second force onto Kanan, that is now 2 dice shots or 2 attacks that you can potentially reduce by 1, which it's basically think of it as 2 hull upgrades, basically, that you're potentially saving your friendly ship from taking, 2 additional damage, and you could do that at least once every 2 turns, if not once a turn, all the time with Kanan. So in that particular case, the force user is better because he does have that resource and the potential to gain that even more of that resource to make that ability even better.
And I think personally, that's one of the reasons why I love this game so much, because it also varies on play style.
Yeah.
Right. For me, there's very rarely a turn I don't take a focus unless I don't have a shot and I have someone in range. I'll take a target lock, but if I have a shot, I'm taking a focus. If we make a comparison just real quick for Asajj purposes, because I want to get your opinion, both you and Chris, right? Because we're talking the expanse between 1.0 and 2.0 because we didn't have force until 2.0, right? So when we look at 1.0 Asajj, 1.0 Asajj was 37 points out of 100. So a little more than 1/3 of your list naked. No upgrades, no nothing. At the start of combat phase, you may choose a ship at range 1-2. If it is inside your mobile firing arc, assign 1 stress to it. Just straight out, assign a stress. That was it.
Was your mobile firing arc a 360?
No.
Or
that
a
was the
90?
first time.
Asajj was the first 1.0 ship that had the mobile arc. Before Asajj, every 1.0 ship that had a turret had a 360-degree arc. Asajj was the Shadowcaster, was the first ship in 1.0 to introduce the rotation of your arc model. And I think, to be fair, I don't know because I don't talk to people from AMG, but I think this was a design space test to see how that ability would work to be implemented further into 2.0 and just remove the 360 turret altogether. But so 1.0 was just, if you're at 1-2, you got to stress. That's all it needed. 1-2 in my mobile arc, you got to stress. That was it. And there was your mobile arc was 3 dice static. There was no secondary shot out the front. There was nothing. If it was, you had 3 dice that you could spin wherever you wanted it. When we look at Asajj for 2.0, it's at the start of engagement, you choose a ship, and it's again in your mobile arc. at range 0-2, but now you have to spend a force. And if you do, that ship gains a stress token unless it removes 1 green token. Because she's I-4, yes, that can hurt, but I'll take the guaranteed stress over you getting the choice. Because when you start pairing that with the abilities that go, that, you know, like 000 and BT1, and well, BT1's a dark side upgrade, but still, when you start pairing it with abilities that trigger on stress, this is an easy choice. I'll give up a green before I give you a free crit. I'll give up a green before I give you, you know, an additional calculate on one of your ships. I will do whatever it takes to not do it. Asajj 1.0 was you just got the stress. Period. If you had the stress, then all my other stuff triggers and you got it. If you were dumb enough to get 0-2 and in my mobile arc, here's your stress. Welcome to the Painville, because I'm about to make it hurt. So I think 1.0 with no force, ability-wise, is more powerful. Now, defensive capabilities, she's much more powerful with the force. But in 1.0, you could have 2 illicit slots, and you could run double glitter stim, which glitter stim is better than the force all day, every day. Because glitter stim was just, if you rolled a focus, it became a hit or an evade.
Welcome to Pound Town.
Painville. I did not say Pound Town.
But you meant to. You were thinking.
I almost did, and I changed it because that's not where we're going with this.
It is Asajj. All right, so let's move on
Fair
a
enough.
little bit. And we don't have to belabor this too much.
You're not wrong, Greg. You're not wrong.
So, what the iconic aspect of the Force is for Star Wars is huge, right? Like,
Absolutely.
come on. For Christ's sake, let's not deny that. And it's funny because back in my Destiny days, there was a podcast I listened to that when The Mandalorian was first coming out, and they were doing like after dark episodes about spoilers in Mandalorian, which we might do for Boba Fett. I haven't talked to these guys yet, but I really want to do a spoiler show for Boba Fett because that's how excited I am. So I love that show already. And that's a tangent in of itself that we're not going to get into because there's spoilers coming. But the guy basically bitched about because Star Wars is based on Force. And that's, like I said earlier, what I felt was they feel like they're introducing this mechanic into a game that's really popular, that's a lot of people, because of the, iconic aspect of it. So now that we've kind of talked about the other things, the only thing we've really missed, right, is the... No, Greg. There's not that many hot people on Star Wars. But
you're specious. You're specious.
No. Instant win. I put Jabba on the YV666. Good luck, Greg.
Ugh. All right. Dan, you're really this is horribly distracting tonight. All right. Focus. Back to the show. So when we talk about, damn it, now I don't even know where I was going with that. Like, I'm so derailed. But the point, my God, I'm not even stoned.
So yes, so you're saying that Star Wars is based on the Force.
Yes, so it's this iconic nature that they want to bring into the game, and the problem is there's not as many Force users as you would think, right? In the game that can make it powerful, and yet in turn, this mechanic actually becomes a little bit more powerful than other mechanics. And the question I have, right, is should we be toning down the Force part of it? Like what it does to interact with other pieces or what it gives you? Because, and I'll use the charge ratio because look at Boba Fett. Boba Fett's insanely powerful because you get rerolls at 0 to 1. No matter what, there's no charges. Force is a step down from that. You get to use your charge on any dice to some extent, depending on your use, but at least on any paint, you get to use it. So you're either changing a focus to an evade, a focus to a hit, or a hit to a crit, depending on who you are, or a blank to a crit if you're fucking Vader. And which is a dumb idea. I don't know who thought of that. But again, so should we be toning this force potential down? And if we're going to go into a full reset, which to some extent we're seeing almost a full reset, should we be considering that in our first token use?
So two-pronged, right? So I think that the reason why they'd like to try to expand users that provide the force and have abilities that are force dependent is just for the design space, to make it more thematic for that card, just to kind of like give that flavor, right, to the game, right, especially when they're introducing a new character or crew to the game, and just give them that ability so that way it feels like that character is really participating in the game. That's the point of view that I see that AMG tries to do whenever they're making new characters and introducing them to the game. On the flip side, as far as balancing the game, honestly, I think that yes, they do need to tone the amount, or at least the potential for those cards to work in the game. And the way that they could do it is restrictions, right? Have like faction only like cards. For Savage Press, for instance, you can have an ability that works only for Separatists, and then a separate Savage Press that works specifically for Scum, because although they're the same person, they're not necessarily in the same part of their arc. And they work differently. I mean, you look at Bo-Katan, as a pilot, she has completely different abilities depending on what faction she's working with, right? And I think that the Force users, or at least the crew, could work the same. And it makes it easier to balance that way, because although one ability can really open up a particular faction because they didn't have access to that ability prior to that, when you start mixing in, particularly with Scum right now, because Scum is one of the larger factions in the game, just right behind Rebels, you start running to that space where you develop a really good card that has a medium power level, for a particular faction, namely Separatists, and then you mix it into Scum and it becomes like an A tier upgrade. So how do you balance that, right? And for me, it's just separating the card, making two separate crew cards to adjust for that. The other part of it is something that they're already exploring with now, for the child, for instance. You have force charges that you can use that are not reoccurring, right? In order for you to do that, you have to suffer a penalty for it, or at least use a particular action of some sort to recover that particular charge to use in the future. In the child's case, in order for you to recover the force on the child, you have to suffer damage in order for you to regain that force. So that to me is kind of a balancing act, and I think that they could further introduce that with other characters thematically. The Chiss, for instance, that the force users for the Chiss, that they use their force and then lose the ability. So
they're not technically force users.
Thrawn disagrees with you. Anyway,
no, he does not. He does not disagree with me.
Thrawn disagrees with everything because he's Thrawn.
No, Thrawn usually outsmarts you. All right, so yes, Third Sight is not technically the Force, even if we all know and our all-knowing reading minds know they're pretty much the same. And JJ, if you have you read the High Republic books?
Not yet, no.
Okay. So your goal for this year is to read them sooner than later.
He gave you a reading list. Get on it.
No, I'm dead serious, because we could start a book like podcast about service books. I would do that. You know how many of those effing books I read every year? A lot.
Wait, hold on. Are we talking about even including Legends?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Okay, because I've read almost all of those.
Yeah.
I could do a podcast on the Young Jedi Knight series. That one was really good.
Yeah. I agree with you. I thought that was a good series too. But again, I want to get into lists a minute. So Charles, any last thoughts on the Force before we move on?
It's good.
Okay.
I mean, we all know it's good. And there's not a downside to it other than it makes things, like, it takes things when it becomes too good, it makes it a negative experience for both the person playing against it and the person trying to play it. Case in point, Luke Gunner. Luke Gunner's great, but Luke Gunner's so good that no one ever gets to play it because no one wants to commit 26 points to a single upgrade. So we don't get to see it. We don't get to have the fun with it unless you're building your list specifically for that.
All right. So why don't we get into the list that we were given first? And so the idea here is what we wanted to do is newer players or people that want some recommendations on different list type building is to kind of go through each list. And the idea here is not to go through just specific meta lists per se, right? But list where we talk about how we can help newer players as they enter the game find a list that they find fun based on what they currently have. So this was submitted by
Ghost Cat.
Thank you, Ghost Cat.
Medi.
All right. This was submitted by Ghost Cat. This essentially is a list. They run Rebel and Empire right now. I believe is the two main lists that they have. And this is a list that they had where they said, hey, here you go. What do you think of this? So the first thing I have to say is you're missing 54 points. So there's that. But I don't know. How do you want to go about this, JJ?
So, so it depends on what other ships he has available to him, right? Because you can either really equip this out to include like extra upgrades on here, or you can add more ships to it. Now, what's particularly really good about the ships they've chosen is that these ships are really, really action efficient. Every single one of these ships have the ability to stand on its own with no upgrades by itself. So you can add on, if you have a second X-wing, put on Wedge Antilles here, and you're good. Every single one of these ships will pretty much have a single, if not double mod every turn to attack. Now, if you one of my favorite archetypes that I ran for a while is a double B-wing list. So what you can do is actually add on 10 num in the B-wing here with no other upgrades, and then for Luke Skywalker you can actually fit proton ion torpedoes on him, and now you have a control piece to help set up your B-wings for a close range attack. And Jake Farrell can kind of zip and zoom right behind those B-wings to provide the focus actions whenever they need to reposition, and then they can either take a Tark lock if they want to, or just stay put, and they can be very, very effective that way. Yeah, there you go. And then just add on the proton
Ghost Cat, don't listen to him. 10 num is terrible. Don't ever use 10 num. He is just awful. Don't ever bring that anywhere. He is terrible. No one ever plays
lies.
It.
Lies.
Yeah, that's all great. What I would do in this case, and I don't play Rebel, so I will start this with like the little asterisk on the screen, the disclaimer. This person has no idea what he's talking about when it comes to Rebel. I've tried running a Rebel squad before. It's terrible. It's a train wreck. I would put R2 on Luke just because theme, and that's strictly why there. I don't know that I would give Luke any sort of force upgrade because you want to keep his force available as much as possible. So I don't see doing that at all. I do want to give him proton torps again, theme, because that's how I roll. On the B-wing, Braylon is if you are stressed, you may reroll up to 2 dice. That just adds a gunner slot. B-wings are so good without being loaded down with upgrades. I don't know that I would put anything on Braylon. I don't know that I would put anything on Jake. I possibly, can it fit? It can. Just for the heck of it, maybe Zeb in the attack shuttle, or the attack shuttle doesn't have a coordinate, does it?
No, only the
No.
Sheath of Beat Shuttle hasn't. So, just
Any
going
fit-
by like his comment because he's in the chat right now. He said that he was interested to see what kind of upgrades would be really good for this particular list. Now, I'm assuming that you do have the Hot Shots and Aces pack, which would give you the stabilized S foils.
If
For
you
this pack.
don't, good luck finding it.
Or if you don't have it, then the newer Phoenix Cell Pack also has the S foils there, so that way you can at least equip a cannon onto the B wing with the S foils. Now, the only problem with fully loading out these particular ships as is that you do have so many points that these ships, with the exception of Luke, aren't really good points fortresses. And now, what I mean by that is that if your ships get concentrated fire on them, and they die before they can either take a shot or take only one shot, then you've invested a lot of points onto that one ship, that could end up maybe firing once in the entire game and then just die, which you don't want to do that. Now, what's great about the Rebels is that they are very efficient on their own base without adding so much upgrades onto them, where you can still run them and be really effective, and it doesn't hurt as much when you lose one of those ships because you still have other ships that can still take on the load and return fire and still be really effective that way. But if you still wanted to load out these ships, definitely add in a cannon onto Braylon. My personal favorite is Marksmanship and Auto Blasters, because he has that natural reroll when he gets stressed. And then if you want to make sure that he can survive, you can either add a shield upgrade, which is really cheap, onto Braylon, and that should give him at least one additional health there. And then on Luke, adding proton torpedoes and instinctive aim, and then maybe afterburners on Luke helps him to really get in aggressively from the flank, boost in with the S foils closed, and then he can instinctive aim a proton torpedo shot if you want to be ultra aggressive. And still be really good. And then Jake with a proton rocket is a fantastic choice for him because he always gets a focus pretty much every time, and then you can mix and match different upgrades on him that way.
I like it's an A-wing thing, but I don't know that people run it. I don't know if Nabi is still in the chat or not. But I have always been partial and have always wanted to see like marksmanship predator combo because they both require the bullseye. So being able to have the predator reroll as well as the marksmanship auto change on someone like say Jake or on any A-wing for that matter, I think is a pretty solid choice as well. Just because you're trying to build efficiency. So if you can have your focus, Predator gives you a reroll, marksmanship gives you that. Another one that I've run on A-Wings and I like is Composure, just because you want to try and arc dodge as much as you can. But if you can't arc dodge and fail the boost because someone plans to block you, like say JJ, and is really, really good at blocking, you can try to arc dodge, and if you fail, you can still take your focus action, so you're not left without through a failed action. But that is honestly more of a play style suggestion because I suck at boosting. So when I fail a boost, it's really nice to get a focus as a backup.
So if it's me, there's two ways you can go with this, right? So you can go, if we want to go a little bit more beefy, you can add Harris and Dula in the B wing, not the A wing, 100% in the B wing. And I a testament to all of that. And then for your cannons, what you can do is you can add, and here's where everything gets dicey because I don't have enough to add cannons to both of them. But I would typically probably add the ion cannon and leave Hera naked. Again, because Luke's cost is a little so...
Sorry. Just thinking of Greg's
Yeah.
comment earlier and leaving Hera naked, just saying.
I think that you're right with Hera. Honestly, because Braylon can get the double modded shots off, you're better off putting the cannon on Braylon, and Hera can just work as that support piece. Yeah, I think you're 100% right on that.
So this is a little bit easy, especially if you own that one specific pack, right? You know, if you own whatever the Phoenix Squadron pack, this is easy to do. The other option you have is you can look at this and you can go, okay, well, if you want to be a little bit more upgrade dependent, You can have a second A-Wing, and you can put Wedge and Tilly's in the other A-Wing. And now you got 13 points left to play with, right? Now you can kind of choose where you want to put your points. And again, Prockets are a pretty decent choice, here, especially on Jake. Some of me says is you might put them here instead on this one. You still got 8 points left. You could put a missile on Luke. I'll be honest, I don't put missiles on Luke. I run Luke cagey, kind of like Soontirfeld, Charles's favorite pilot in the world. And then typically I will put something like you said, either a marksmanship is a good one. You could change this out to an auto blaster or a tractor beam. I don't like tractor beam because that's not my play style.
Nobody does anymore.
And yeah, with the new rules, I don't know if I would do that. But moving to an auto blaster allows you to put Jake with Prockets along with Wedge, or if you really want to be pushy, you can put Hera back, right? And you can drop your Prockets. And now you're back to Hera, either in an A-Wing or a B-Wing. They're the exact same points, period. But my big thing is I don't like auto blasters, but that's me personally, not on the ship. I like the ion cannon for the control. The other option you could do is if you really want to be... the problem is if people know this combo, it's a little bit harder. But you could put Gavin, right?
Yeah. Gavin
right in here
is solid choice. Yep.
And Gavin allows you to have marksmanship and an ion cannon. Jake, and here you could drop marksmanship. You can drop down to auto blasters, and now you got 4 points to put on Jake or on Gavin, whichever you want, or on Luke if you really want those ion torps. I don't put ion torps on Luke though, personally. That's just not me. I don't do that.
Advanced Proton will be really good too if you can spare the extra point.
You can't. So, yeah, Luke is that 60-point piece that is like I guess you could drop down the jamming beam. I wouldn't do that though. If it were. So the only issue I have with Gavin is, so this is a more beefy in its aspect, and this is where you probably just go, I'm just going to go with the ion cannon, or synced laser cannon. You could do that too, ion cannon, and then I would probably put either Predator, or really I put marksmanship over Predator all the time. So anyway, so there's that. The other list that we got was a double fire spray list from me. So I didn't know if anybody would put any lists in there. So
let's do it.
Essentially the list that I had talked with John about was we come in with Jango Zam, which is a little bit more of a strip down. On Jango, we're putting Count Dooku, Counter-Nets, and Treacherous. And on Zam, we're putting Treacherous, False Transponder Codes, Proton Bombs, and Perceptive Copilot.
Okay. Is this something you're planning for LVO?
Maybe. I haven't. I've played a lot of double fire sprays.
If you're new to the podcast, welcome to the indecision hour.
Yeah. The issue I'm having with I wanted to run JJ. So long story short, I wanted to run my droids WAT. I've been cautioned because I've never played in a 6-round tournament before that running an 8-ship list is silly for me, even though that technically is what I have been running in my locals for the last 2 months. Plus, I've been running it online with our group and whatever tournament we were in. I found with the independent calculates, I've had a lot of success. But the bigger issue I have, right, is if I go to a tournament, the other two lists I've been thinking of is either Jango Zam, which I've done very well with, or I've been thinking of running Zam, Grievous, DBS 404. But I own 2 fire sprays. This seems very easy. I can run this, and either it'll do good or it won't. and then I'll get to play in Sunday doing something else.
Well, I can tell you again, my experience with fire sprays is a little different than resistance, or not resistance. I'm sorry, separatists.
Separate.
Because I fly scum fire sprays almost exclusively. I fly scum almost exclusively, except for my dabbling in Republic. But dual fire spray is always a solid list, and the reason they don't require synergy, they don't require range, they don't require anything. They are designed to be a solitary ship, so they don't, like, for instance, and I'll just JJ. Last night I had Eamon Boba, and they were never near each other during the entire game. They were always within range 3 of each other, so that I had overlapping fire arcs on some ships, but they didn't work together. There was no synergy between them. They were built to run as 2 individual machines, and they did so very well. And I kind of feel the same way about Separatist fire sprays. They work amazing by themselves. And so having 2 single ships that are tanks in and of themselves, that run well by themselves, is always a win-win situation. I think this is a strong list the way you've got it built out. I think the only thing that I might change, and I'm checking a price real quick before I stick my foot in my mouth. I might bring seismics over counter nets, but that's just me personally.
Yeah, that was my suggestion. Yeah, my thought process too.
I especially right now with dangerous rocks, you open it up for yourself, but because people are trying to avoid the rocks or stay close to them without hitting them, it gives you a much wider array for damage, because you get a range 1 on the rock rather than the range 1 on the bomb. And if you set your rocks up right, you can drop one right in the middle of 3 rocks and have, a pretty wide blast radius. So just me personally, I prefer them over the counter nets. And I flew counter nets on the V-Wings. I love counter nets, but their odd shape has screwed the pooch so hard for me on more than one occasion, where I dropped it thinking it was going to go, but because of the hourglass shape, and it's not, a standard size, it's weird shaped, it's hard to judge. Whereas the square that is the seismic is a little more comfortable for distance judging, personally.
Yeah, and the only idea we had the counter nets was to stop people from trying to chase Django. That was it. Other than that, like, really, the seismics do work better. So the question becomes too is, like, the problem is you can't fit 2 hull upgrades on here with everything else. So the biggest issue there, I lost the stupid thing. Yeah, it is. All right. The biggest issue, right, is that I would rather have hull upgrades, but is 2 health really worth it? I don't know. That's the problem. If hull upgrades were not 5 points on them, it would be a little different.
Just out of curiosity, if I could just throw this out there, just on a side note, JJ, I want to ask a question of you, because I don't know, and I'll ask Chris as well off the top of my head. The Zam fire spray, changing that out for Maul with, and then putting Dooku on Maul and putting Zam on Django. So you have 2 ships with double shots on each ship, right? Because Maul can shoot twice with his native ability, and giving Zam to Django to have a double shot, potentially front back. Would that be stronger on a list than a double fire spray? And would it free up some points moving to Zam crew instead of Zam pilot, to be able to kit them out a little differently?
So it definitely does open up the points, because you're able to fit a lot more upgrades with Darth Maul instead of Zam on it. The problem you start running into, and it was kind of an issue in our match last night, was that Maul then becomes limited to in his movement, right? Because you can, that boost ability on the fire spray, and since it is a medium base, allows you to get around the board a lot better than a large base can. And then on top of that, Maul becomes action locked a lot of times because you want to reposition, but then it's a red reposition, right? It's a red barrel roll with no way to modify that into a white. So while it can save you on points, and Maul can definitely be strong if you can keep him on target, if you start facing other ships that can reposition, Maul's going to have a hard time keeping time on target on those ships. So I think that Zam is a better call for this particular type of archetype, where you can have the front and rear, and you can make them chase you and drop bombs behind you to punish them for chasing. And I think you have better time on target for that.
Not only that, but you can drop a bomb to deal the damage with the protons, and then have Zam do the double shot out the back. So that's 3 sources of damage in a round if you plan it appropriately.
Yeah. Now, my preference for bombs over protons is actually seismics with delay fuses, because you can kind of gauge where the enemy is going to come, and that ends up being like an area of denial for possibly 2 turns. And I tend to try to do that when I set up my obstacles, put it in a tight cluster, so that way when I drop off my seismics, it's a huge area where you can affect using that seismic charge. And then later on, that opens up the late game when you need to zoom in through the center and like get out, right? And you have no obstacles there. That makes it a lot easier for Zam or Jango to maneuver through. Yep. So that's typically how I like to run the bombs. So.
Yeah, because at least 13 points left over.
And to be fair, I would actually put Zam on Maul and Dooku on Jango, mainly because you want to. With Dooku,
you can't double tap twice.
Right, exactly. However, Zam's ability, whenever Maul gets
then
hit,
he can take a target lock. Spend 2 force to double tap.
Yeah, there's that, and you also get a target lock, right, for those initial shots that come in, so that acts as another mod for Maul. And then on top of that, Dooku's ability only triggers when all your force is fully is full. So you although you get that extra force with Dooku on Maul, if you're missing a force, then you're no longer able to use Dooku. Whereas with him on Jango, since that's the only force, you're able to reliably do that every turn if you need to.
So then with the extra points, do you put Slave 1 and put Suppressive Gunner?
Yep, that's a very good call. Yep.
Or do you put Veteran Tail Gunner on?
No, I'd rather do Suppressive Gunner. Or heck, even Hotshot Gunner. With Jango's ability, you can, especially if they roll like a single focus and they're focused, you can reduce, assuming that you meet the criteria for his ability, you can change a focus result down to a blank, and then they can't spend their focus. And then with Hotshot Tail Gunner, now they lose that focus on top of that.
Yeah, but they don't have a turret. There's no turret.
Oh, yeah, true. Good call. I forgot that's turret archer only. Yeah. No, but Suppressive Gunner is a better call, I think.
Fair enough.
Additionally, you can do Elusive and Contraband on Jango.
Say again?
Elusive and Contraband on Jango.
But, I guess. But the amount of times I'm going to use Elusive is probably once a game. Like, I'm going to do a 4K once a game. I don't typically do turnaround maneuver with my fire sprays. In all fairness. And if you do that, you have to drop something. You have to drop the hull upgrade. I guess you drop the hull upgrade on Maul.
I guess, and this is me again as a scum fire spray player. Without the Jango Slave 1 title, there's really never a reason to do a turnaround because you've got the same shot out the back that you do out the front. You got 3 out the back, 3 out the front. There's never a reason why you need to K-turn. The Django Slave 1 title gives you a bonus if you're shooting out of your front arc. So that's good. Or if you have, is it Marauder that gives you the reroll out of the rear arc? So
Yeah,
you
that's Scum only.
you might K-turn. Yeah, right. I'm speaking for Scum. That
Okay.
is the only time that I can think of where I might want to K-turn. So I'm firing out of my rear arc instead of my front arc at your ship. But other than that, there's really not a reason why you would sloop or why you would K-turn, because the back firing arc is identical to the front firing arc. There's no downside to shooting out of the back arc, and you get bombs. So you want to be shooting out of the back arc as much as you can.
Yeah, and then for your maul, instead of the protons with the delayed, just change it to thermals. They're more effective that way.
Are they though?
Yeah, I caught you with all
Once?
except one. I caught you with all except one. I'm gonna say.
Yeah, you caught yourself with a couple too.
Hey, but I still got you though.
by like this much. It looked like it was nubs only. Woo.
It was great.
Well, all right. With that being said, we're going to wrap up the show tonight. Next week, we will cover our Construct the Death Star list with JJ, because we didn't get to do that tonight.
Yep.
And that's my fault,
No,
because I want to talk about Force users.
We all tangented so hard on this episode. We need to change the title of this episode to Tangents Are Us.
I mean, this week we got the trilogy tournament starting with Nabi, so that's going to be pretty fun to see those matchups, and yeah, we get some of those games on stream. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess make sure you guys tag me, so I guess make sure I set some time aside to stream. These next weeks are hell for me. So, all right. Well, thank you all for joining us. We'll be back next week. If you do want to submit a list, you're welcome to submit a list to in our Discord. JJ created a list submissions tab, and you're welcome to go ahead and submit a list for next week. And we'll cover at least I don't know. If we get submissions, maybe we'll cover one list a week or something like that. If we get enough of them. So you don't need to hear my Django Zam bullshit that nobody wants to run against. It's a negative play experience. Lists all the time. But as soon as Savage Press comes out, I am 100% running dual Sith
Scimitars.
Yep. It will not even be a question in my mind. I will be running that. Though, if they would update Yasby, we could actually start building with the Gauntlet Fighter, because I kind of wonder if I could run a Gauntlet Fighter and a Scimitar together, and how good that would be.
Oh yeah,
I just don't get them all. So
yeah, without a doubt, you'll be able to run both of them. Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for joining us. We'll be back next week, 9 p.m. Eastern, with more Planning Phase Syndicate. We'll be back on Wednesday with our community stream. If you want to join us, click and sign up in the Google Sheets list, and we'll get you on stream. Have a good night, everyone.
Yeah.